All right, we'll call the council meeting to order. Everybody stand for the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, take the roll.
Mayor O'Connor.
Here.
Morissette.
Here.
Wakefield.
Here.
Knutson. Here. Kennedy.
Here.
Bruck. Here. Paul.
Here.
Excellent. All right, we will start off with comments and suggestions from citizens present. This is your opportunity to speak on any topic that affects the city that you would like to address that is not on the agenda tonight. So this is your opportunity to come up and say a few words. If you have something to say, if you would, please come to the mic, identify yourself and your address, and try to keep your comments brief. And also, please try not to repeat other people's comments. Let me just say one thing real quick. If you're here for the public hearing, that will happen after public comments. So if you're here to talk about the transportation, please hold off on those comments until the public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Paul Rattel, and I'm a real estate attorney for Double Play Investments, LLC. Double Play owns approximately 30 acres of vacant land located on the northeast corner of Interstate 94 and Carmichael Road, directly south and bordering Hudson Physicians. On multiple occasions over the past several years, Double Play has met with and has been encouraged by Hudson officials to develop the property. Our understanding is that the city would like to see additional medical facilities and a grocery store as part of any development of this property. An expanded medical campus along with a new grocery store north of Interstate 94, we believe will provide significant benefits to the city and its residents. As a direct result of these meetings with the city and city officials, in December of 2022, Double Play entered into a purchase agreement with Triland Properties, a national developer with 45-year proven track record of mixed-use development. 7 months ago, on April 14, Triland and Double Play presented a detailed development plan to the city. Hudson Physicians indicated that it would like to be part of that development and was invited by Double Play and Triland into the planning process. We're looking to move forward with the development process as quickly as possible. With this background, the simple purpose of my comments to you this evening is to request that Triland and Double Play present their development plans to the full city council. To that end, I'm asking the council to add the presentation and discussion of these development plans to an agenda for an upcoming January council meeting. If the council agrees to include this as an agenda item, the CEO and president of Triland, Richard Doobie, plans to attend and present these plans to you in more detail. We understand that under the ordinances for the city of Hudson, a recorded vote of 2/3 of the members of the council is sufficient for the matter to be included as an agenda item, and that's ordinance numbers 2316 and 2318. Therefore, we respectfully request that the council make a determination to include this as an agenda item to inform you of this important project. I greatly appreciate your time and attention to this matter and look forward to working with the city of Hudson on this very important matter that will provide significant benefits to the city and its residents. To illustrate the development plans, I have a single site plan that I would like to share with the council for, if I could.
I can pass them around.
Absolutely. Thank you. Again, thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Good evening. I'm Dean Knutson. I live at 1753 Laurel. I'm the Vice President of the St. Croix Business Park Corporation. St. Croix Business Park Corporation has the mission of supporting and fostering commercial development within the city of Hudson and adjacent to the city of Hudson. And we were incorporated in 1994, so it'll be 30 years next year. During those 29 years, I've been either a member of the Common Council or a member of the Business Park Board for 22 of those years. The board consists of 3 individuals who are vested with management of the corporation. They serve without compensation, but we've been very successful. Together and in cooperation with the city, we have built out lots of good businesses out there with lots of good jobs, hundreds of jobs. Currently, the St. Croix Business Park Corporation still acts as almost like a homeowners association. In other words, we have covenants so that we can assess them for things. So as such, we're unique in the city, the largest by far of any such association. For the city's tax base, we comprise about 7% of the city's tax base. Those businesses contribute about $700,000 a year just to the city's budget, not to mention the county and the schools. In addition to that, we still have 57 acres of undeveloped land, part of which has been mined. It's part of the Mimbach Quarry mine that Matthey Construction or Matthey Corp has. Within about the next 10 years, the entire mine will probably be done. At the south end, that is, the mining operations are coming to an end, and they've been working on reclaiming. So that'll be something for us to work together with the city on. In that altogether, there's pretty close to 100 acres within city limits there to be developed. 3 of the 4 largest value tax parcels within St. Croix County are within our development. You might be aware of those, the biggest taxpayers in St. Croix County. And also, some of you, Alderperson Morissette was on the council back when TID 4 was closed. So the St. Croix Business Park comprised tax increment district number 4. It closed early. It paid off handsomely. For those of you that remember us purchasing the building where the library and the police station is right now, we purchased that without any debt, without any borrowing. We actually lowered taxes the year that we purchased it, and largely it was because there was a big one-time windfall at the closing of Tax Increment District 4. So recently we have entered a sales contract on our last shovel-ready parcel of land. This is going to mean that it's turning the page, and we're going to be looking forward to ways to cooperate with the city. So I'm going to reach out to each of you. Any of you have questions about the business park or have ideas, ways that we can collaborate together in achieving our mission, I'd appreciate it. We have several $1 million in the bank ready to move forward to help bring business to Hudson. In addition, you might recall there's about a $600,000 revolving loan fund that we cooperated with the state on. We sold the land. We agreed that instead of taking some of the money for the land, we'd create a revolving loan fund. I don't think that fund has been used in maybe 10 years. I remember signing on one in about 2010, so maybe there's been one since then. But we should do something with that money. It's available, and it shouldn't just be sitting there. So I thank you for your time and attention, and I look forward to talking with you more.
Thank you, Dean. Any other comments?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and City Council members. My name is Mayor Claire Potter, President of the Hudson Chamber, and I'm just here to give you a few updates. I know you have a very full agenda tonight filled with very important issues, and some of the things that I'm going to talk about tonight, all of these events help drive economic development. So we held our, this past weekend, our 37th annual Hudson Christmas Tour of Homes with over 1,500 attendees. We were very fortunate with the lovely weather, so we're thankful for that. But tour goers enjoyed all the homes, the retail shops, and the restaurants. And as I make my way throughout
downtown in the city of Hudson throughout the weekend. I spoke with some of the retailers who had some of their best days that they've ever had with their shops being open, and the same with some of the restaurants. So that is very good news. This Friday night, Light Up Hudson, November 24th, Santa will arrive in Lakefront Park at 7 o'clock. With a wave of his wand, he will illuminate thousands of lights. This is a special thank you to the businesses and individuals who have supported and sponsored. This is our 5th annual Buena Vista, a stroll in the park that we've been able to do thanks to all of those supports. And a special thank you to Chamber member Save a Tree for their partnership in the design and installation of all the lights. It does promise to be a magical evening for everyone, and the weather looks beautiful. And the lights will remain on through February 9th. Small Business Saturday is this Saturday, November 25th, where you can shop, eat, and sip locally. Keep it local because your dollars support the community, local businesses who create jobs. They invest in this community, supports the environment, and it keeps Hudson unique. Candlelight Stroll, a fan favorite for many, is Friday, December 1st from 6 to 8. We have carriage rides that down in Lakefront Park with the luminaries and with the beautiful thousands and thousands of lights in the trees. And then the Holly Dolls from Helmer Dance Studio will be in the shop windows with over 300 luminaries in downtown. And musicians and choirs fill the streets. And thank you to Police Chief Williams. We were able to close Locust Street and appreciate their support in that. And Santa returns with Santa and His Critters in Lakefront Park on Saturday, December 2nd from noon to 3. I did a little look at the weather. It seems to be much warmer than it was last year when it was like 35 below, I think, but this will be lovely. We'll have a petting zoo, dog set demonstrations, treats, and much more. And then you can also, if you haven't seen Santa yet, on December 10th, Sunday from noon to 3, you can visit with Santa, bring your list, and visit with him in Thor Craft Kitchens from noon to 3. So I do encourage everyone to shop locally this holiday season, and if you don't know what to get that special someone, you can purchase a chamber check, and they can be used at all of our businesses and shops around town and restaurants, and it keeps dollars local in this community, and it supports local jobs and businesses. And events continue to grow the community to be a great place for all of us to live, work, do business, and visit. And a special thank you to the Public Works Department for all their help and support getting Hudson ready for all of these events and decorating for the holiday season. A special thank you to Deb Andrews, Kevin Soltis, and J.J. Barnes. On behalf of the Hudson Chamber, thank you for your help and partnership this past year, and I look forward to our continued work together. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary Claire.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Any other comments? Any other comments? Hearing none, we'll close that portion of the agenda. We have a public hearing. Public hearing on proposed 2024 shared ride transit program. This is your opportunity to speak with regard to this, this agenda item. If anybody has something to say, once again, please come up to the podium and identify yourself, your address. Please try to keep your comments brief, and please try not to repeat other people's comments. Is there anybody that would like to make a comment?
If you don't understand something, please let me know.
Okay, and we do have a written statement here from Ramsey also. I'm sorry, what?
Good evening, Hudson. My name is Ramsey, and I've lived in Hudson my whole life. I'm proud to call Hudson home, and I'm here tonight to talk about the proposed accessible, affordable transportation program, taxi services, know that I went to University of Wisconsin for water. I know there's some alumni in the room, but I'm a Hudson reader at heart. And what this transportation would do it would allow people to go in the community and increase the independence of all Hudsonites. I thank you for your efforts on this, because this is near and dear to my heart. When I went to Woodwater, we had a transportation cab service called Brown Cab Service, and took us for $5 a ride, and it was remarkable. And Mary Claire said she wanted to create jobs. Okay, this would be a wonderful way to create jobs, and it'd be a wonderful service for the elderly and people with disabilities. Since a large portion of Wisconsinites do not have the ability to drive. I'm a wheelchair user myself, so I oftentimes have to depend on people to get me to places in the community. So, outrageous, this will help us completely, and I look forward to helping with the process. Thank you to Rich O'Connor for his wonderful efforts, and all of you for your hard work. Thank you very much. Go Raiders!
Go Raiders.
Thanks, Ramsey.
Thank you. That's right.
Other comments? Tim?
Hi, my name is Tim Hall. I've lived in Hudson at 1105 Maple Drive. I also am here tonight to support the idea of a shared ride service for our community. And there's a number of reasons why I think it's a good idea. Firstly, there's the idea of convenience. So as somebody who travels quite a bit myself, when I land in a strange city, it's nice to have somebody who can pick me up at the airport, take me to where I want to go, when I want to go, and to where I want to go. I think that's something that maybe on a local level we've been lacking a little bit of. Shared ride services are generally somewhat more affordable than a taxi service or a scheduled bus service. They have more flexibility. The riders usually have more opportunities to pick where they're going to go. It provides an opportunity for people such as Ramsey, such as our seniors in town, or just folks in general, young people included, to have independence. So ride sharing can help them become more functionally independent by allowing them the opportunity to set their own schedule as to where they want to go, who they want to see, and when they want to come home. They're not tied to a prefixed route. I think that does a lot for folks who need to have that sense of community that sometimes we find are missing nowadays. I think on a more economic level, it would help the community both for employers and for workers. When I had the opportunity to serve on the transit committee for the county, one of the things that we heard from some of our employers and many of our workers was, I don't have a car. I can't get to work. I'd love to take this job, but I have no way to get there. Our industrial parks would benefit from an increased labor pool, and our young people, maybe people in entry-level jobs or people who just don't have the means to afford a vehicle or don't choose to, would have an opportunity to participate in the workforce and the tax base here. Next, we know that Hudson is a destination location. People come here, they enjoy coming to downtown, they enjoy sampling some of our food and of course some of the beverages, and they can do so with the ease of mind knowing that they'll have a dedicated, safe, professional driver to turn them home if they've had a little bit too much. Conversely, the public benefits from increased safety because a professional driver is bringing those folks home. Finally, it works. It's been shown to work in communities abutting our community, including River Falls, Stillwater, and New Richmond. So I think it's time for Hudson to get on board with this for the betterment of both the community, its residents, and our businesses. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Any other comments? Any other comments? Any other comments?
Mr. Mayor, I'd enter into the record the email we got from,
Oh, okay.
I think I'm going to botch this, Kane Vorwald, who was sent out this afternoon from Aaron Reeves. I'm not going to read it, I'm just acknowledging it.
Okay. Well, anybody want to read it?
I will.
We can.
I met her on Sunday and told her about the shared ride taxi. I believe she lives in your district, Joy, because she lives south of EP Rock School. And she said that she wouldn't be able to attend the meeting, but that she would have liked to had that when her daughter was living here. So, dear council, please read my comment at your meeting tonight on shared ride taxi service, as I am not able to be there in person to share my comments. I am a resident of Hudson, a mother and a caregiver. My 41-year-old daughter received a traumatic brain injury when she was middle school age. She has and deals with partial complex seizures, which medication helps to control. She lives independently with help from 2 caregivers, one of which is me. Her biggest hurdle is, and has been, transportation, getting to medical appointments, grocery store for food, the bank, getting to community events. I worked at a job all those years while being a caregiver to my daughter, having to schedule and take her to medical appointments, and taking time off from work to get her there. She is unable to work due to her medical issues, so is on a disability income, which pretty much puts her in the poverty to low income category. There are some programs through the county to help with certain things, but still transportation is not supported enough. Her plan would pay drivers so much per mile, which made it harder to get others to drive. We have a wonderful city with lots to offer and events open to the public, but it doesn't help people who can't afford or own a car or who can't drive due to some medical reason to participate in our community. It's so important to those to have community integration for their mental well-being, to participate in community activities with family and friends so as to not fall into a depressive state of mind. I wish there had been a shared ride taxi service available to my daughter and others in need of transportation earlier, but now is the time to ensure access to our community and public services. Therefore, I would like to see this item approved. Thank you for your time and your consideration. And Kenny Vorwald.
Okay, thanks, Joyce. All right, any other comment? Any other comment? Any other comment?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion is second to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Public hearing is closed. Shared ride transit system bid for 2024 implementation.
After the public comments, I had provided also some additional information to the council as it kind of came in. But basically, I think some of the main questions the council had last meeting when we were talking about this bid is possibly ways of saving money by doing some changes to the service as far as like maybe hours, how will it go outside the city, just things like that. So we did verify with the state that we are not allowed to make any changes to the proposed services. So it's kind of a take it or leave it situation with what the cost is, what the service hours are, kind of those sort of things. So with that, if the council wants to move forward, we have to move forward basically with what's been presented. Now, what the state has said is that once the system gets up and running, it could be possible to work with the vendor in the future to do some modifications to the contract, but that would again now be something where we'd have to work out some sort of agreement with the vendor. They'd have to be willing to make adjustments and those sort of things. So kind of with that,
Aaron, if I may interrupt, what does that mean? What type of adjustments, if the state is saying it's a take it or leave it proposition, then what type of adjustments could we make with the vendor?
So what they're saying is at some point in the future, and Edwin, please jump in if I'm wrong or I'm not kind of summarizing this correctly, but basically what they're saying is that we could work with the vendor, say after they get up and running and things like that. We could say, okay, we've identified that we really don't want to have the hours in the days as much as we do. We're not seeing riders happen at this time, whatever. We'd like to work with you to offer reduced service, things like that. So there are things that we could negotiate with that vendor for the future after they get established. But Edwin, correct me if I'm wrong, they would have to agree to it. They could say, you know what, nope, either we're doing it this way or we're going to be out completely. So it is possible that they would not be interested in doing anything reduced than what they're doing right now.
That is my understanding, yes.
So Aaron, outside of what the city staff has put in the time on this, how much have we spent up to this point?
Basically, I think really the main cost we had was just with the West Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission to do the application process to see what this bid would be to secure the federal state funding, things like that. And Edwin, what was our contract with you? It was like 18,000 maybe or something like that. I can't even remember at this point.
This one was 15,000.
15,000. So basically we spent the 15,000 on it. Now, we did update our transit plan a few years back as part of this, but that's also something we just need to do anyways. So if we look at other potential funding for different things, when we look at our overall transportation system, roads and things like that, updating that transit plan is usually something you do along with that process anyways, because it's usually a requirement if we do apply for funding for things like roads and transportation projects, not specifically transit projects. So we did do that, but that's something that we were kind of, I think, planning doing anyways. So it's not really something that's specific to the transit program. So I would say basically, besides staff time, it's the $15,000 contract with the Regional Planning Commission.
And obviously, we would have to re-up 15 more grand again if we rejected this.
That's possibly, but as I mentioned in what I sent to the council, if we rejected this and decided to do something new, we'd probably basically be looking at 2025 anyways, at this point with the funding and everything, how the process works through the state. And at that point, as I said, River Falls is very interested in doing a joint RFP with us for 2025 because their contract expires next year. So they did the same thing that the city is considering now, and they also had those 4-year, 1-year extensions that basically locked that price in. And for them, as from what I saw, I mean, they're spending about $42,000 a year. So they have 1 more year left locked in at that price. And then they know, seeing our RFP response, that their cost is going to go up dramatically as well now. So they're very interested in trying to do a joint with us to see if somehow that might help mitigate that some. So what that means is that if we decide to do a joint RFP with River Falls, I don't know that we would use the Regional Planning Commission for it. Maybe River Falls has staff. They have a lot more staff than we do. They may actually have staff that know how to do this process, that they might do it kind of on both of our behalf. So I couldn't really say for sure we'd have to do that contract again. It's possible, but if we decide to do a joint one, maybe not.
Aaron, how long is the contract for?
It's a 1-year agreement, and you have 4 1-year extension periods, and those lock the price in we have right now, except that they will go up for inflationary cost. And that's set by it's a standardized cost that's issued by the federal government that says, here's what the inflationary increase is for, I don't know if it's major metropolitan areas or whatever that number is, but it's a set cost. It's not arbitrary. It's something that comes from the federal government, and that's what it would go up every year until the end of the basically 5 years. Now, we're not committed to anything. I mean, we're not even committed if we do this now. If we have to give, I believe, 60-day notice to cancel at any time. So if we get into this and in March, we decide it's not worth it anymore, you can issue a 60-day notice of cancellation and the service would stop. We'd have to pay whatever costs we had up to date at that point in time. But, you know, we're not locked in for any extended period of time.
Okay, and how much money is coming in from outside the city?
Not a ton. So, you know, as far as the funding goes for the $100,000 share, roughly 93,000, whatever it is, the county is contributing, is able to contribute about 8,000 towards it. But other than that, it's basically then state and federal funds, which I think the total cost, Edwin, was roughly 500,000. So they would be about 350, 400,000 in outside funding coming in. Is that about right?
Yeah. And
420,000 would be the operating costs.
So we would have 320,000 coming in from outside sources besides our share, basically.
Aaron, if I could ask that 8,000, is that from the ADRC, which is initially they had designated to their taxi service on the weekend? Is that where that money is coming from?
Yes, that's where it's coming from.
Okay.
I'll make the motion to approve the contract.
And I will second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Aaron, of the 320,000, you have a breakdown of how much is coming from the state and how much is coming from the federal government?
Let's see if I
have the estimates right here, Aaron, if you'd like.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I was trying to see.
So 95,000 of that, 96,000 of that would come from fare revenue, based on the estimated ridership. 162,000 would come from the federal government passed through the state, and then the state 8520 grant program for rural areas would contribute another 69,000.
And how often is the grant program at the state refunded?
Twice yearly, I believe.
No, I don't mean that. I mean, how the duration of their program, is that up? Obviously, they have to set their budget, but I mean, do they have any type of sunset on this or anything that you're aware of?
No. They've had this program in place for as long as I'm familiar with.
Which is?
At least 15 years. They've been funding the 8520 grant program.
Okay.
They actually increased the funding for transit this year. There's some question about what it'll be in the future, but I think that's probably true for most state funding programs.
Yeah, Joy.
Yes, I have a question. Now, at our last meeting, we did vote funding to extend the current program that we started in April, which is called Ride on Call, or
My Car on Call.
My Car on Call. Thank you. And could you, I'm asking staff to give some bullet points to compare what's offered there, who are the participants in the RIDE program? Because no matter which way we go tonight, there are still other options to provide for at least certain members of our community, even if we don't go forward with this full transit.
Is a limited service to basically elderly participants or those that live in one of our kind of senior housing facilities. So in that, I had sent out that update from My Car on Call. So they list in that the number of facilities they serve, and then the number of people that they are serving in each of those facilities. So kind of provide a little bit of a breakdown of that. So they're definitely more limited to, they only go to and from certain senior facilities. So it's not that you can get somebody that gets picked up, say, at their door or, things like that. It's got to be, you have to be a resident of one of these facilities to be able to utilize it. And then with the full transit service, it's basically open to anyone. So you can call the number, go online and do it online. You can book your service. They can come and pick you up at your home, take you to wherever you want to go, bring you back, that sort of thing. So the transit service itself is open to everyone, which is, of course, then why the full service costs $350,000 per year to operate, because you're branching that out. And what My Car on Call estimates to continue the service that they're doing, to provide the service to the kind of the same facilities and things like that, they're looking at closer to that, 90, basically $5,000 a year or whatever to be able to do the service. And that's just to those facilities that they have, basically. Now, they have said in their proposal that if any other facilities are identified, or that they would be willing to add more without adding to that cost. But, again, so My Car on Call is a more focused service. It still hits a very important need that we have in the community, of course. And it is at a reduced overall price. It's just that our share for either is fairly close, at least for the actual operation side. Now, I did say in my memo before that the administration side is something that's still kind of out there a little bit that we're trying to work through. But there is a potential that could be an expensive side of it for us, because we don't have the same staffing levels, as a River Falls, say. And so when we are starting something new like this, we probably do need some outside help with it. We're hoping to bring that cost down by maybe working with like a River Falls or New Richmond and their staff that know what they're doing on it. But it should be recognized by the council that there will be an administrative cost that will have to be addressed. If we go with the full transit service, with the My Car on Call, there is not that kind of additional expense.
Aaron, is it correct to say that the My Car on Call does not have disability-equipped transportation?
Right, they don't have that. That is definitely a big difference.
Okay. And the admin cost, we would have to wait, if there's going to be any savings through efficiencies or scale, we would have to wait a year before we recognize that, or even begin to understand that when we start to do an RFP with River Falls.
And Richmond may possibly want to jump in on that. I'm not sure exactly where they are with their renewal years. But if they have a year or two left, I doubt that they're going to be interested, just because they know that cost is going to over double. It's almost guaranteed. So they're probably going to want to stay out of it. But maybe in the future, New Richmond also may want to get involved too, which at that point also does start to beg, why isn't the county just doing this on a county-wide basis if all the major cities are having to do it. But the county at this point has not expressed interest in kind of providing the service. They'd rather leave that to the cities.
So, it's kind of a moving target out there. I think in your discussion on this, it was like admin costs might be anywhere between 20 and 40,000. Was that right?
Yep. I think that would be reasonable. We think the high end for sure is 40,000, because that is what the Regional Planning Commission quoted us to be able to do it. We do think, in talking with potentially River Falls, that they might be willing to kind of work with us on it, but we haven't been able to kind of work through that yet, and we haven't wanted to really dig into it too much until we know for sure what the council is supporting or not. So we I think the worst case scenario is the 40,000. We hope we can come in under that if we can figure out something else. But that would be the worst case if we move forward.
How do you think that we would have to wait the full year before we had an idea what to get our arms around that cost, or can we extrapolate that sometime?
No, I think we would be able River Falls would actually, I think, potentially have said that they'd be willing to work with us even just next year on the admin side and through some sort of contract maybe or something with them, because they have a staff person that really knows how to do it. They've been doing it for a while. But then the bigger picture, overall administrative cost and actual ride service cost and things, we wouldn't know if there would really be any economy of scale until we actually go out for a joint bid with River Falls, which would happen basically the same timing. So we go out for that bid sometime in late 2024 and get the results back in October-ish. And then we would know where we stand as far as if it was any sort of, either per ride or just overall cost savings to do a joint proposal with River Falls. You'd hope there would be. You'd hope there'd be economy of scales. You'd hope that for some reason, you would hope that by doing such a large service that we would see a reduction in the overall kind of individual cost with something like that, but we wouldn't know until we did the bid. The hope even maybe would be is that we get more bidders because it's a larger service and that might attract more providers. Because as of right now, as we know, we end up, there's really only one provider that's providing bids. So your hope would be is maybe there'd be a little more competition with the bid process if you had one bid coming in for a much larger service area.
Okay. Randy?
In the past, when we've gone through union negotiations or whatnot, we would always talk about, we bring on, let's say, a request for more employees for one of the departments comes on. And the biggest question, I'm playing a little devil's advocate here, is that what happens when things go south and we don't have the money? Do we cut that employee? And the first things that's always we say, we're not going to cut an employee. So if things go south down the road in the next couple of years with the economy on a shaky ground, is this going to be able to be, are you going to be able to cut it? The service if we approve it and we run into financial hardships, if you will? Are we going to go back to the well and tax people to keep it?
I think it's going to, what's going to happen is, how are people going to be utilizing it? How popular is it? We'll have to evaluate
It
it.
settles better with me that we could jointly do something with River Falls, but at the same time, we've had partner relationships, and look where that has all fallen in the past. I'm just playing a little devil's advocate to think it all through.
Well, since we're thinking it all through, I'd just like to share some data that might be helpful in the decision-making process. If we look at our population, so think about this, 6.8% live below poverty level in Hudson, so roughly 7%. 16% of our population is over 65. And in the city of Hudson, between 10 and 12% of our population have disabilities. Now, there could be some overlap, so you might be disabled and also living below poverty line. So if we were being conservative in our estimates, those three put together is 33%. But if we were being conservative and saying that some folks fell into both of those categories, let's say it's 20% of our population that might need this service. So if we think about the $93,000 that would cost our taxes or moving forward potentially, our annual operating budget is $25 million. So what is a $90,000 impact for the common good, the citizens that have put us here? What is that impact? It is 0.00372% of the budget. And we're talking 20% of our population.
I'm not sure your
I
math.
don't think the budget amount is correct, but
Well, I actually,
staff.
Aaron, that was the number, right, that you had shared with me, our annual operating budget was 25 million? Wasn't that what you had shared with me?
Yeah, if you add in like utilities, all of our enterprise funds, things like that, our total, when you look at the audit, the total amount of dollars audited, let's say last year was close to 25 million. It was 24 something, I believe. So now if you look at our actual general fund budget, you're closer to that $10 million number. So 25 million is our overall look at, bottom line, here's all the numbers that we audited in our budget last year. Our actual, say, general fund operating, about 10 million roughly.
And just a few other points before I turn the floor to another council member. From the ADRC, through October, they have provided 3,544 rides, and the overwhelming majority of those are nutrition related. So taking folks to the senior center, it also includes medical appointments, routine chores, and social activity. When Ramsey spoke about independence and feeling part of the community, I mean, holy cow, how can we possibly turn our backs on that? We're called here to do common good for our citizens, and I will be very disappointed if we don't move forward in this.
I have a question. What is has a minimum age for an unaccompanied minor been established there for this ride service?
No, we don't have some of that stuff kind of figured out. Honestly, what we were going to do is basically just match what River Falls and New Richmond do. It was the easiest, cleanest. It's the same provider. They have basically the same policies across the board. So I don't know exactly what that number is off the top of my head. I'd have to verify that with what the other two are, but that was our intent basically, was to keep the services pretty much uniform across all, because it's the same provider. So I can check and verify what that is, but I'm not sure what that is off the top of my head for the others.
Well, I did a comparison of My Car on Call versus the shared ride taxi service, and Aaron brought up economy of scale. Well, this is definitely an economy of scale compared to the My Car on Call. Serving a larger number of residents and taking advantage of grant opportunities provides a lot of economic benefits besides more rides for a lower cost per ride. These include reduced congestion downtown, more parking available downtown, and more people able to enjoy the benefits of the city, such as the shopping and entertainment downtown and elsewhere. The cost to the city at $93,000 for approximately 29,510 rides gives us $3.15 per ride. It's available to all of our seniors, all people with disabilities, all members of the community. In contrast, My Car on Call, we spent $30,000 for approximately 1,452 rides. That came out to $20.66 per ride. Now, our ride is $25 minimum, but it would be less per person when shared. So that shows that there were a significant number of shared rides. This is still significantly higher than the shared ride taxi service, and it's only available only to people living in certain facilities. And the disabled people with disabilities were not eligible unless living in a certain facility, and they didn't have the wheelchair accessibility. So we would be paying 22% of the cost of a less expensive ride that is available to everyone versus 100% of the cost of a more expensive ride available to fewer people. Why should we continue service to a limited segment of the population at a high cost to the city when a more cost-effective alternative covering everyone is available? We have a fiduciary responsibility to all the citizens. My Car on Call was funded as a bridge until SRT started, not as a permanent solution. A 5-mile radius outside the city would allow people to access our industrial park and shopping areas, as well as interact with family and friends who live outside the city limits. Therefore, rides into or out of the city to the townships benefit all, including businesses and residents of the city. Young people who don't yet drive can get rides to friends' houses or to shopping or to jobs. Our local businesses have been asking for this so they can have a larger pool of potential employees, since there are people without cars who want to work. People would no longer have to have a car to be employed. This is a huge benefit to many people. There's a real interest in this service in our community, and just like our police, fire protection, electric vehicle charging stations, streets, parks, schools, library, and business park, this is necessary infrastructure that people expect of a thriving, vibrant community like Hudson.
I have a question.
Sure.
How many vehicles would be operational at one time? Because to hear, thank you for your assessment and your description of how the services, but to me, I picture like a bevy of vehicles delivering people here and there, and my impression was going to be much more limited. My concern, people who get keyed in on a service, I'm going to book them 5 days in a row because I'm commuting into the cities with my friend who lives on Vine Street, but I live out in the township, and I'm going to get a ride to that person's house, jump in the car, and that may seem like a great service, but actually that doesn't serve our seniors and who might be more occasional users, or people who do need that wheelchair accessibility into the vehicle. So that is one concern, is that it could be, how do we determine who gets served and how many vehicles?
Wait for an answer.
I will, yes, thank you.
Would you like me to take that one, Aaron?
Yeah, go ahead, Ellen.
There'd be two vans in service. The nice thing about a shared ride taxi program is it does allow you to put up to 5 people, ambulatory people, in a single van. And so you have the ability to be transporting 10 people at a time. You also get you do have a lot of demand around commuting times for people that are at work, but many of the other elderly and people living with disability rides happen at other times of the day. And so there are some policies in place to keep a small number of people from dominating all of the availability. But the shared ride aspect of that, where they will go out and pick up people and then take them and drop them off, alleviates some of that threat.
So, if I may, just piggybacking on your question, if we were then to partner with River Falls and potentially New Richmond, how many vehicles would that add into the equation?
Right now, New Richmond has 2 vehicles that they're operating, and River Falls has 3. This is as of, I believe, the end of last year is when I got that information.
So is it reasonable to say then that we would have 7, or do economies of scale bring that down to 5 or 4?
That would be a point to negotiate with the other partners when you were writing up the RFP, I would imagine.
All right. I'm sorry, Joy, I interrupted.
No, that's okay. Thank you. I guess I do want to just offer a concern that I raised at our last meeting, that this is one-time money, the ARPA funds. And I am very concerned about standing up a new program. I know that some council members have been waiting for a number of years for this to come forward. We had to work with this regional planning agency, get on the calendar. So it feels delayed to some people, but I feel a little concerned that we just passed our budget, set our levy limit, and now we're talking, and I realize it's timing of when this information came to us, and we also need to make a decision in a timely manner if we are going to implement this in 2024. But using one-time ARPA fees is a concern to me, because we start something and then, of course, the public expects or hopes that it would continue, and we do have to fit that in our levy. And as Councilmember Morissette has mentioned, there can be times in the future, if we don't experience the same economic growth that we've had, that we might not have that increase in our ability to levy, and therefore not be able to afford it, not be able to maintain other core city services, police and fire, public safety, maintaining the streets and so on, are really our core needs as the city. So that is my concern. Again, as I mentioned last time, I felt that we had already allocated this funds. So I don't know if just a vote of the council can undo that, but it had been allocated to the Public Works Department last winter, I believe in January, this additional final money in the ARPA funds. So those are just summarize some of my concerns about it, as well as the distance of going out 5 miles into the country, picking up people. I am concerned that it'll take that vehicle out of circulation a little bit longer and harder for people. So I wish we could control that factor. I know that might seem appealing to some people, but I'd rather see something that was just in our perimeter of our city limits. So thank you.
Okay, thanks.
To address Councilmember Knudsen's concern, I understand we can't change the parameters of the RFP that went out already for this year, but moving forward, should this pass and we continue on, is that something where we can restrict it to the residents of Hudson?
Yes, that is one of those points where we could attempt to negotiate with the provider and say we'd like to remove the 5 mile radius, or something like that. And again, that's something where we'd have to try to work it out with the provider, but it would be something we could look at trying to do for the future.
So it's the provider that is saying that it's going to be out 5 miles?
Well, that's the standard, basically, service kind of model. And so when the RFP was done, I mean, and Edwin, correct if I'm wrong, but when the RFP is done, I think that's just the standard way it's looked at is that that's kind of the standard operating model. So that's what we went with when the RFP was put together.
It's the most usual in my experience with the shared ride taxi programs, although it's not universal. It does not have to be that way. There's also, you can there's nothing to keep you from setting up a prioritization that the rides inside the city, 100% end-to-end inside the city, would have priority over the ones that went out into the country. That wouldn't change the situation as far as the RFP is concerned. That would just be a policy.
So Edwin, have you seen municipalities in it that have restricted it just to rides that originate within the, or just for citizens of that municipality?
Yes, I act as the administrator for the Chippewa Falls Shared Ride Taxi Program under contract with the city, and their service only serves within the city. It's problematic for them in some ways, since they're part of the municipal area, which includes Eau Claire and Altoona, and the village of Lake Hallie. But that was a decision they made back in 1984, I believe, when they stopped using the Eau Claire Transit for their transit provider, and they shifted to a Chippewa Falls only shared ride taxi program.
Okay.
Do New Richmond and River Falls have a 5-mile radius?
Yes, they do.
And-
Because River Falls, one of the things River Falls did say is that, they see a lot of people in some of their areas going to, our exit to shopping. They do see that on their trip thing. They get a lot of the residents that are within the 5-mile range to get to their exit to, Target and things like that. So they definitely do. And I know New Richmond does as well.
So what percentage of their rides are outside of city limits?
And again, I did not get the data from River Falls. I tried to follow up. I believe just maybe timing with holiday or something. They didn't get me that information, so I don't know that answer. I'd have to wait and get that information and share with the council, but I'm not sure what their percentage is for rides outside the city.
Edwin, do you have any data on other services that would, and what percentage they have of rides outside the city?
No, I don't. I will say that the outside the city fare structure is fairly steep in that let's say a regular adult fare would pay $3.50 as the base fare, and then every mile that was traveled outside the city would be another $2.50. So if they were going to the end of the 5-mile, you'd be looking at over $15 for that ride. So the fare revenue does go towards offsetting the expense of providing that ride. But I understand the concern about the people that live and work or that only travel within the city having priority there.
So with our the contract as written, we could put in the priorities that we could prioritize rides where it's end to end within the city.
That's not actually addressed directly in the city, in the contract, or in the RFP. And so the city has a lot of leeway in how they set their policies and prioritization for that.
Okay, thank you.
And Edwin, if I could ask you a historical question to a point that Councilmember Knutson made. Have you seen other communities, start the program and stop because of an economic downturn or a lack of use? What's your historical picture on that?
I have not worked in Wisconsin for very long, so I don't have a lot of experience here with the shared ride taxi programs. To the best of my knowledge, I think only one of the 35 or so shared ride taxi programs has, maybe two, has discontinued their service in the last couple of years. I think a lot of that right these days is, as was mentioned earlier, the demand from employers with vehicles getting more expensive and the need for workers, particularly entry-level workers, a lot of the factories going up. Anytime you talk to the business community, they'll talk about how the transportation is a huge issue for them being able to staff up. So I think that's keeping a lot of the systems running, is that understanding on the business side how important it is to their businesses.
So I'm going to go back to kind of what we talked about last time. I'm proud of what we've done so far, and the individuals that need this service. I think we went from nothing to, cobbled together a decent plan. The looking forward, it is apples to oranges here. Is that the right thing? Yes. We're not just switching vendors. Obviously, we're really expanding the service and really kind of dropping the list of any kind of qualifiers. It's basically, if you need a ride, here's the website, here's the number. While I want to continue to provide this service to the people that need it, I think there's a little bit of mission creep, I think, from past conversations where we're now talking about getting a ride home from the bar if you don't feel like driving. There's benefits to that, of course, but should that be on the taxpayers? Something we have to think about. We are in a tough spot because there's not 8 options for us to look at. We talked a little bit about the price. I know you mentioned the $93,000 that's being thrown out there. Aaron also mentioned an estimate of $20,000 to $40,000 more a year for additional administrative work. So that's a real price. And I'm with you that using your math, the 20% of people that are elderly and don't drive or have other reasons they can't drive, well, they're going to, when this continues on year after year, their taxes are going to be going up too if we have to add a new program, add a new line item. So those are some of the concerns. I don't think there's a lot of debate here whether this is providing this service on individuals that have a need for this, a true desire to medical or food or whatever. But the idea that I want to ride, I think that's where we're going to find ourselves putting together a program that's very easy to use, very convenient. The word convenience was used. And people might make some decisions about hey, I'm going to move to Hudson because they have this really great car service or whatever we're going to call it. But at that point, 5 years down the line, when it's no longer $93,000 and $40,000, it's $200,000, and the county or the state starts, or the federal, starts drawing back on this. We're gonna be committed to this program, this particular program. And our taxpayers are going to be, they're not just the people that are using it, but everyone's taxes is something that's going to be hit. So again, I guess back to Randy's comment, if we go forward in 2024 and use the benefit of that ARPA fund that we have, I'd like to at least see us use next year to dig and try to combine a program that has some savings to it, maybe some more limits as far as time, just to control it. I'm not for a blank check type thing. Let's do this program forever and write a blank check. We can't push it down the road that far.
I'm not sure it's a blank check because it is something that you do have to revisit on an annual basis. I mean, I understand where it could be hard, but it has happened if it's not being used. So I'm not comfortable with the terminology of a blank check.
And are we corrected that we cannot do any modifications anyways right now to limit of availability and any of the hours of operation or who has access to this? It's this or nothing, correct? We can't modify anything at this time.
No, there's no modifying. What you're going to be approving is the full service. But like I said, it is something we can try to address with the vendor in the future, but there's no guarantee that would be successful because the vendor, may not want to offer due services. They, for them to be able to do the service, this is what they bid. And so it's something we can attempt to negotiate at some point in the future, but it's not a guarantee that we can make any changes.
Would this be
once we have the
1
contract
year
in
though?
place.
Agreeing to this would be just 1 year and then we could look at other vendors or get some things
yes.
in that would
Yep,
modify the service?
Technically, yes. I mean, technically, you could start the service and give 60-day notice at any point in time to end the service. So we're not locked in to any amount of time. But I do think that there is a general real concern that if you start a service like this and it starts to be utilized, taking it away can definitely be difficult. decision to make.
Am I correct that this would only go until 8 o'clock in the evening for weekdays?
7.
7.
7 in the morning to 7 in the evening is the hours we had in the RFP.
Okay.
And if I
So
could point-
that's not going to, that's nowhere near bar time, so I don't think we'll have a lot of people utilizing it for,
Just the day drinkers, I
yeah,
guess.
the day drinkers.
And then I think our public safety would be all on board with that. So 2 things, just points. So we can prioritize in this upcoming year that Hudson residents, City of Hudson residents get priority. And, oh boy, the other comment just fell out of my brain, but it will reappear. But I wanted to just make that point.
Up to, if you're running into capacity limits, I believe you would be able to prioritize inside the city.
Thank you.
If you had available vans, I think it'd be difficult to justify with WisDOT denying rides based on the location since it's written in.
So Aaron, you had talked about administrative costs here with the city. What would that entail? Where does the call go? Does it come into the city and then the city to the provider, or does it call to go directly to the provider?
So the administrative cost is really on the federal funding requirement side, the state and federal funding requirement side. There's a number of reports you have to do. You have to coordinate. I believe that we'll get reports from the provider. We have to kind of review those reports, make sure they're meeting their criteria. Then we have to submit reports back to the state or federal. So I think it's a lot of administrative paperwork on the actual funding side, not as much the operation side. I think our role on the operation side is more of ensuring that they're meeting the requirements that are set forth in the RFP and the contract, and then mitigating any sort of disputes. So if we get complaints about the service or things like that, we'd have to deal with them. But when you talk about that administrative fee side, I think it's really 90% going to be based on just having to deal with state and federal funding requirements and reporting and things like that.
So, and what kind of data do we get from the provider? So will we know how many rides are going to workers, people that are trying to get to and from work? How many are disabled? How many are elderly? Do we get data like that?
No, not exactly. You will be able to get the data on the fare structure because elderly and disabled have a lower fare structure. So you'd be able to identify students or younger people that are driving it or taking it with the reduced fare for them. You'd have the elderly and people with disabilities. They're under the same reduced fare. And then you'd have the full fare adults. And then there's also agency fares because sometimes some of the social service agencies will buy groups of tickets for their clients. Those actually come in at a significantly higher rate because since many of them have federal funding, they're required to pay the actual cost of operating of the ride. And so, for instance, Chippewa Falls, their agency fare is $6.
All right, so a reduced fare, is it the same for students as it is for disabled and elderly, or are they on a different fee structure? Is each one of those categories on a different reduced fee structure? What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to, at the end of the year, if we do this for 1 year, I want to be able to collect the data. I want to know how many people we are bringing to and from work, because frankly, if we're doing that a lot, I would like to entertain the notion of providing a surcharge to the businesses that are being served. And then also, I would like to separate out the students or anybody from a reduced fare. I would like to have them, I don't think students should be charged the same as elderly and disabled. Frankly, I think the latter should be charged less. But I would like to be able to, at the end of the day, if this data isn't captured for us specifically, I would like to be able to go through it and be able to capture it based upon the fares. I think that's going to be important. And so go ahead and answer that question, and I got something else I want to say.
I'm sorry, could you rephrase the question, please?
Sure. Is there a separate fee structure for each one of those groups of people. Is
Yes.
reduced fare the same for students as it is for disabled and for elderly, or is it different?
It was projected to be the same.
Okay. And I suppose we can't change that. I want to know how many students are using this versus how many disabled and how many elderly.
Yes. You'd have full adult fares, you'd have the number for that, you'd have reduced fares for elderly and disabled, and then you'd have a count for the students' fares.
A count? What does that mean?
You'd have the number of rides.
We do know that. We would be able to capture that.
Absolutely.
Even if all of the reduced rates were the same, you'd still be able to pull out which ones were from people with disabilities, which ones were seniors, which ones were students?
Yes, I see the reports from Running. Running is the service provider for Chippewa Falls, and I actually process the ridership reports on a monthly basis, and those are separated in the reports.
Okay.
You said there were 2 vans, so are both vans wheelchair accessible?
Yes.
And so if there is a wheelchair being used, that's just one ride per that van, correct?
That's correct. The reduced fares for elderly and disabled do not have to be offered during peak service hours. So you can charge a full fare. You can't refuse service for someone with a mobility device, but you can charge them the full adult amount outside the peak or in the peak hours, which is when you tend to have the most utilization of the vans. Some places do that, some places don't do that.
Okay.
So I was assuming your question was the capacity of the van if you have a wheelchair on board.
All right, well, I must say, I want to add, I guess, that to the discussion. This is more complicated than I thought it was going to be. This isn't looking anything like I wanted it to, well, I shouldn't say anything. It's not resembling what I wanted it to be when we started this discussion 4 or 5 years ago on trying to be able to provide transportation services to our citizens, to our elderly, and to our disabled. People that needed to be able to get around. This has taken a completely different turn. I don't like the idea that we are going out 5 miles to bring people in here and charging our taxpayers for this. I don't like that at all. I don't like the idea that we're providing service to people that don't need it. You know, that doesn't make sense to me at all. But on the other hand, after everything I've just heard, I mean, the cost is going to be approximately the same for the type of service. The My Car on Call right now provides a very small portion of the service that's required in the city. It is not helping our disabled at all, or the people that need at least disabled equipment. And we wanted to help them specifically when this discussion began years ago. The new program would obviously cover that group of our residents, and that's important to me. It covers our elderly, and that's important to me. If we can do this for the same amount and then make the concession that we would still be, or about the same amount, obviously the administrative costs are going to be added onto this. And then in addition, we add in, all right, so now we've added in the 5 mile radius, and we're adding in rides to people that don't need them. But it's just a convenience. We can do that for approximately the same cost. Personally, I don't see why we would not do this for the first year, but I want to capture this data. And believe me, if this doesn't come back right next year, I'll be the first one saying we need a change. We've got to change this. And I'm really, and I understand and respect and echo the concern on the side of what happens if the funding from state or federal government goes away, and certainly there is a lot of history for that. Now what do we do? And it's hard to unwind this type of program that provides a need to our citizens here, our residents. But I guess I'm willing to face that potentiality in order to get this done for 1 year. And like I said, if this doesn't come back the way I was hoping it would, then I'll be the first one to say we need a change. Absolutely. But I want to make sure that we can capture, presuming this were to pass, I want to make sure that we can capture that data so that we can really look at it and analyze it and see if it is in fact serving the communities that we intended to have served in the first place. So that's my thought.
Was the motion for just a 1 year?
Well, the motion was to approve the contract, but we can terminate the contract after a year.
Or with a 60 days notice too.
Okay.
Correct. 60 days notice. So you're approving the agreement, and the agreement locks in the rates for 2024, and then it provides 4 additional years that are optional that would basically lock in the same rate we have now, but with an inflationary measure number added to it. So, but with all that, at any point in time during this coming year or any future years, if we opt to stay in, the council can decide with 60-day notice to terminate the service. And our only financial obligation is to pay for whatever rides have been done to date and, things like that.
And if the data did not come back supporting the use of it, is that when we could look then to modify the hours of service, the service area, things like that?
Yeah, and what we'd also get is I think Runnings has to provide, monthly reports on runs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So even as we get the monthly reports in, let's just say by March, we're seeing something, or we want to wait to, let's go through July, maybe, whatever date it is, and we see some numbers that are like, well, we don't really like this for whatever reason. At any point, we can attempt to work with Runnings to say, here's the numbers, we'd like to modify, here's why, and that would be, something that could be done, kind of after review at any time.
As far as the timing is concerned, I will say that it's fairly standard practice in transit that you really don't know what you have for the first 6 months. Because it's sort of like opening a restaurant. Sometimes you get a big rush at the beginning, then there's people that are curious, and then it drops off, and then around 6 to 9 months is when you usually get a fairly stable read on when it is.
Edwin, if I may, I brought up the possibility of, or the thought, I don't know if it's a possibility or not, of charging businesses to bring workers into them, adding a surcharge. Is that something that can be done, something that has been done anywhere?
Yes. The local match, which is the $93,000 we're talking about, that can come from anywhere that doesn't involve other federal dollars. So it can come from, for instance, there are certainly places where businesses, large retailers and or large manufacturers, industrial parks, do cover some of that to help them with recruitment.
You make it sound like that's a voluntary thing.
That would be a question for you, I think. In my experience, it has been voluntary, but I don't know that you couldn't put a special taxing district in and use some of that money for transportation.
Okay. Joy.
I just want to comment that I think as members of the council here in the city of Hudson, we have to remember to not be comparing what we do in Hudson to what our neighboring communities do. Because we all know that some of our neighboring communities get quite a bit more money in shared revenue from the state than we do, and so that loosens up their general city budget a lot more than ours does. So, people look at Hudson and want to say, well, Hudson's rich. that is an assumption that here in the city, as Sarah, you pointed out, some of our socioeconomic numbers are lower than other parts of even our school district here in the city. So there are people, and someone else made the mention that if we are raising taxes and having to roll this into the levy eventually, that could make it more difficult for those lower income people who might need this while their home taxes are going up as well. I would really like to see if we couldn't I would really like to see the county, St. Croix County, come forward with something that could help serve our county, because I think that would be more economy of scale moving forward. One thing to remind us all here in our thriving commercial district, our retail district, the city collects 1/2 cent sales tax on everything that's bought in the city of Hudson, and that money all goes directly to St. Croix County. So there's a tremendous amount of income that comes out of our community that goes to the county, which they use for various projects and funding. I would love to know the actual dollar amount they get from our commercial businesses, our retail, restaurants, etc. But there's certainly income generated here that go into their coffers, and I do think it would be interesting to see if they couldn't take a broader approach to really helping solve this transportation concern, especially, I echo what you're saying, Mayor O'Connor, about senior citizens and those who have disabilities who cannot drive due to physical or other issues, that those are the ones that we really do want to urgently help. And I think we should all start lobbying our elected county officials to get involved in this, because I think they could help perhaps. And again, I'd just like to point out that a lot of money, sales tax dollars, are raised in the city of Hudson that go into their coffers, not to ours. All the rest of the sales tax goes to the state or the county, and thank you. That's all.
Okay,
I agree with you, Joy, that yes, it would be great if the county could step up and do some of this. Unfortunately, after the last election, the county chair did not appoint anybody to the transit committee, so they do not have a transit committee at this time, is my understanding. Is that correct, Tim?
So it's like a pause, or there's not an active group there right now?
The county,
As far as you know.
the county chair
Yeah.
decided not to appoint anybody, that's all that I know.
Well, again, we all have someone that serves on the county board
yes.
that represents us, so it's an issue that we're well aware of.
No, I
and
agree.
Bring to their attention.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Everybody ready to vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion's approved. Consent agenda.
Approve the meeting minutes from the November 6, 2023 regular council meeting. Approve claims in the amount of $1,094,872.67. Approve the candlelight stroll on 12/1 of 2023. Approve hot air affair, February 2nd, 2024. Approve the memorial application submitted by David Cahoy. Approve the 2024 concessions agreement at Grandview Park between the Hudson Boosters and the City of Hudson. Approve the 2024 scheduling agreement between the Hudson Boosters and the City of Hudson. Approve the appointment of the interim city administrator. Approve personnel policy updates. Approve the swamp agreement with WSB in the amount of $29,750. Approve final development plans of a building addition for Reliance Electric Motors at 1621 Livingston Road, Duran Builder Services. Approve certified survey map for Festival Foods at 1616 Crestview Drive, Crestview Holdings LLC. Approve a certificate of compliance for Under One Roof, Operation Help in the Hudson Backpack Program at 1830 Hanley Road, St. Croix Outreach Alliance LLC. Approve final development plans at 1616 Crestview Drive, Festival Foods.
Excuse me, I'd like to have that pulled from consent.
Okay.
Approve the purchase of a 2017 John Deere excavator in the amount of $167,900 for the stormwater pond restoration work. Approve the purchase of a wheel loader and plows in the amount of $299,000 from McCoy Construction Forestry. Approve the master services agreement and task order with MSA Professional Service for the 11th Street project. Set a public hearing for rezoning at St. Croix County Tax Parcel 236 12110000 from I-1 Light Industrial to B3 Central Business. And approve the reallocation of $46,000 from the Police Equipment Capital Improvement Plan, and approve the bid from Steiner Plumbing and Electric Incorporated in the amount of $120,090 for the City Hall HVAC updates.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve consent agenda with the exception of item L.
And
And.
N?
Yes, N. Thank you.
Oh. Okay. Got it, okay. All right, roll call?
Morissette?
Yes.
Wakefield?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Kennedy?
yes.
Brook?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Motion's approved, consent agenda is approved. Item N.
Thank you. Yes, the reason first of all, I'm very pleased that the Skogan business is bringing in festival foods. I have no objection to that whatsoever. This has gone through Plan Commission, and they've looked over their site plans, et cetera. My comment was on the narrative that they provided about their operations. It's in your packet, page 160 out of, I think we have 225 pages tonight, where I wanted to point out that the operation hours that were specified about alcohol sales, wine, spirits, and et cetera, do not conform to our city ordinances. So I think I spoke with Mike Johnson, Development Director, today about that, and he's communicated with the company, which is oversight. The state of Wisconsin has certain guidelines for opening and closing, and as a city, we have taken the opportunity to make those stricter in some ways. So if you reference Municipal Code 145-13, which specifies closing hours, I just wanted to insert that as an amendment instead of that paragraph that shows different time periods. So just a small catch there. So I move that we accept the final development plans of 1616 Crestview Drive, Festival Foods, with that amendment that their operation plan would adapt or would conform to our municipal code.
A second.
Got a motion and a second, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Closed session. Section 19.85, Sub 1, Sub E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investment of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, potential purchase of property for Public Works Department. Is there a motion?
Move to go into closed session?
Second.
We got a motion and a second to go in closed session. Roll call?
Morissette?
Yes.
Wakefield?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Brook?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Motion's approved. We're going into closed session. Across the hall. All right, we are back in open session.
Yes, I move that we, as a council, authorize the mayor and the acting city administrator to negotiate on purchasing some property to potentially be used for a public works facility.
A second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. I guess I just have a question. Are we scheduled for 1 or 2 meetings for December? Have we had that discussion yet?
We haven't, but the schedule, the tentative schedule just has one. It would be January 8th.
The December meeting?
December.
No.
I might have, but they say no.
Sorry, I was getting my
You
log on my
you made the
computer.
lawyer nervous, eh?
Yeah. So we're scheduled for 1, okay? So, other than that, I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving. If you're traveling or not, I hope you stay safe and enjoy it, and hope you're all with family. And we look forward to seeing you soon. December 8th.
It's not the 8th.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. We stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
December 4th.
Have a good night and happy
December
Thanksgiving.
4th. Okay.